Hi, Constantine. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. Juxtaposition of your very soul. So, thank you for actually saying yes to be interviewed today and for taking your time early in the morning for this to happen. I'm always excited as I get to talk to new people every day. And as my ritual, I usually will read a bit of your introduction to our listeners today before we get down to business. so
You're
everybody, so everybody's listening. We have Constantin here. He is a passionate advocate of personal growth, self-discovery, and professional development with over 15 years of experience. Through his journey from a fear-ridden man, hiding his authentic self to embracing vulnerability and authenticity, Constantine demonstrates that self-discovery can unlock the keys to personal and professional success. Integrating his passion for technology, spirituality, and mentorship, Constantine helps individuals unlock their full potential, fostering a positive impact on the world around them. So, wow, Constantine, great to have you on board. So excited.
Thank you so much, Nicola, for having me here. It's such a pleasure to sit with you and have a beautiful conversation.
Thank you. So, before we dive deep into the questions that I have and just sharing our stories, can you take us down memory lane? What was it like growing up as Constantine Morun?
And you pronounce my name so well there. Thank you for that. It's usually hard for people to pronounce my last name.
Oh, did I
And
pronounce correctly?
yeah, you did. Thank you so much. Yeah, the memory lane. I mean, I actually so Constantine is my middle name. My first name is
Oh,
Bogdan, which is an even harder.
oh,
Right? So I figured, you know what, I'll go by Constantine these days. But I grew up as Bogdan in Eastern Europe, in Romania. And during the time where I grew up, there was a communist regime in the country until about when I was about 7 years old, when there was a revolution, and then democracy came in, right? And there was a time of a lot of scarcity and fear and anything really negative. So that had an imprint in my life early on as a child, because you see, what I've got to learn over my past few years' journey is that whatever happens to us or for us between the ages of 0 and 7 has a massive, massive impact on our life for the rest of our life.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So wow, okay, well we dove right in. Okay,
Yeah,
I so I'm gonna repurpose some of your questions on your
of
profile
course.
because I think these are excellent questions. So right, I guess we're gonna expand on that. How has your experience growing up in Eastern Europe during the communist era shaped your perspective on personal growth, resilience, and overcoming challenges?
Yeah, I love that question because I had to sit with that quite a bit myself to understand how I really grew up. Because you see, if we don't look at our past, if we don't look at everything that we've done in our life, it's very hard for us to have a clear path forward and understand our limitations, understand our limiting beliefs, understand where we hold ourselves back. So in that retrospection, let's say introspection, looking backwards, what I have realized is that because I grew up in an environment ridden by fear and scarcity, that meant that there were certain, let's call them rules, that your caretakers, your teachers, everyone in society would place upon you to fit into the box, whatever box they were creating. So as a man, I remember being told when I grew up, oh, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to do anything artistic, you're supposed to go into the sciences and work hard in school. So there were specific modalities or specific approaches to life that they knew because that was safe for them, because Romania was a communist country for a while and that was safe. So that's what they taught us, not because they had any ill intent, but because they wanted the best and they wanted a better future for their children. And it's the same in any part of the world. It doesn't have to be a communist country. And then, of course, what comes with that is this idea of a fixed mindset. So you see, when you make a mistake, ideally, you can look at it, give yourself some grace and say, you know what, I'm only human. I'm okay. It's okay to make mistakes, but I get to learn from all of this. However, that's not how I grew up. If you made a mistake, you were put down, you're admonished, right? Sometimes physically hit. Like I remember in school, right? The teachers back then still were hitting kids, put in a corner. other things, right? And what it teaches you as a young adult or a young child, really, is to do the same things to yourself, right? Because you realize, oh shit, I made a
Mhm.
mistake. Now I'm gonna imagine everything that's gonna happen to me, so I'm gonna beat myself up. And you don't even realize it as you grow older that you're doing that to yourself, that you're talking to yourself like you wouldn't talk to anyone else in your life. So that was a big part of how I grew up, the fixed mindset, those limiting beliefs, because of the society I grew up in.
Okay, what was the pivotal moment that you said that you thought to yourself, enough is enough? Do you have
Oh,
that moment?
I had many of those moments, to be honest with you. So you see,
Okay.
when I was about 17, so back in 2000, is when my parents made a decision to move to Canada to give me and my brother a chance at a better life. So we immigrated here, and then of course the culture shock was massive for me. Everyone left everything behind, like friends and family and whatnot. So it was a bit of a reset. And then I got to meet people from many different cultures, every part of the world, which was beautiful to see because now all of a sudden I was getting new perspectives on life and I was being challenged in my
Mm.
thoughts. And I was a, A plus student most of my life, and I was the same in
Overachiever, would you say?
exactly. Well, I was an overachiever, a high performer, or top performer, because that was instilled in me by my family. My parents are both engineers. My father has a PhD, university professor. So they instilled in me that, you need to go to school, you need to study hard. But guess this, Nicolette, I never really liked being in school and following a predefined
The
uh,
norm.
curriculum.
The
Exactly.
earth.
I was
Yeah,
challenging,
yeah.
but that's all I knew, right? So I did what I was told and what I knew. But it wasn't until about university time when I started to realize, wait a second, I can actually challenge this and I can actually have my own opinions and I can actually look at things I'm doing and say, you know what, that's not necessarily correct. That doesn't sit right with my heart and I can make changes. But at first it was very, I would say, a gradual process, but also a very slow process because perhaps I didn't have the right mentors. I wasn't listening to the right mentors, you name it. And it wasn't until I got to my mid 20s, I would say, that I started to change certain things and realized that I wanted to go towards a growth mindset, towards a life with less limiting beliefs. And now I'm 40, and it's only been in the last, I'll say, six and a half years that my journey kind of went parabolic in a way because it finally clicked in, right? Finding my why or my purpose, following my heart, conquering these limiting beliefs, really embracing a growth mindset. And, there's a few more things that we can name in there.
Wow. I resonate with that so much. I grew up in Kuala Lumpur, not a communist country, but the fact that my parents, they are middle class um, people as well. So education was always number one priority for my dad because in his words, education is the key to changing your life. So I did my best as well, was a top student, continued to be until my preparatory course in college. And then that's when I came over. Sorry, this is me telling my story as well as we're exchanging. Yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
because and then in university, that's when I started. Okay, because that's the first time me being away from my family. So that's like, ooh, okay, culture shock. This is me. I'm free. I'm liberated from them. So maybe I should try certain things. So I tried. Went out, but then it's like a girl that's from the, I wouldn't say the village. No, not really a village, but it's like a small city, and then going
Yeah.
straight to capital. So back in 2010, so that's a pretty big deal to me. And
Yeah.
it's, I would say that I've been in this city for about 13 years now, so I've seen the ups and downs. So I mean, why I'm saying this to you is because I've also gone through certain trauma in my life, and part of the reason why I started this podcast was because of that. So I can totally resonate with you, and I think that's why you're perfect for this show.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Nick. Uh, let me tell you one thing I didn't realize for the longest time in my life, and looking back, I'm like, wow, how could I miss that? is one thing that you just said that was really important. We all have our own traumas.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if my trauma is seen by you as a trauma or I see your trauma as a trauma, because each of us have our own definitions and we have our own feelings around that and beliefs and thoughts.
Yeah.
And all of us have grown up with certain people and experiences in our life that caused us to, let's call them, get some traumas in our life, get some limiting beliefs, whatever you want to call it. And unfortunately, all of us have that. Fortunately, though, all of us also have the power to change all of that,
Mm.
because once you have awareness,
Yeah.
and that's half the battle, because now hey, like everyone else, I have my own issues. They have their own. Of course, mine are unique to me. But that means I can take power back and I'm empowered to make changes. And that was a big catalyst for me in my journey.
So right, this is very interesting. I because I also delve into this topic during my healing journey. I We're all healing, but still. So how
We
do
are.
you integrate technology, spirituality, and personal development in your work as a senior account technology strategist at Microsoft? Wow.
Yes.
So,
that, that's
so are you in Microsoft now?
I am in Microsoft. Yeah, I've been with Microsoft for the last 6 years. I'm in enterprise sales, and I hold a technology role, right? So I enable customers to achieve more with the technology they have. And that's been an amazing journey, because really that's when I joined Microsoft is when my personal development really took that parabolic curve I told you about. And personal development is also professional development. And I'll tell you why. Because I came from a much smaller company where I started with them when they were a startup and then they grew big. And that was beautiful because I had a journey with them and I was growing alongside them. Now, because I was in that role and I was a senior leader in that company at one point, it allowed me to, how should I put this, to feel in my ego that I'm, in a really good spot. I'm really good. I don't need to put too much effort to be at the top of my game, even though I
Right.
was putting the effort. Now I joined Microsoft, and if anyone in the audience knows about Microsoft or Google or Amazon, all the big companies, there's a it's hard to get into the company because
Yeah.
everyone wants to join a company like that, or most people at least, which means that there's always a high competition. So when you join in, everyone is a top performer, everyone is a high achiever, which means that now you have to do more to stay on top of your game and rise to the top, right?
Yeah.
Because you're fighting in a pool of people that are much, much more competitive, much more invested, right? It's not like just 9 to 5, they work a lot harder. So that gave me the ambition, let's say, to pursue more personal and professional development. But for the first few years, it was all external, meaning I would read books, talk to mentors and coaches, podcasts, videos, without really looking inwards. And you mentioned spirituality and self-discovery in that,
Oh, you touch a very good point. Yes, we're
right?
going. Yeah, this is my topic right now. Yes.
Right? So we are very good at consuming content externally. And what I've seen with a lot of people I coach these days or work with, and people in my professional life, my personal life, is it's much easier for us to consume the content, but then not do a whole lot with it, because the taking action piece, that's where the value sits. But it takes time to to actually get yourself in a way in which you're like, okay, I'm reading this book. I like these 3 parts. I'm going to apply them to my life and see if it works. If it doesn't, I throw them out, and then I go to the next thing. Most of us
Mm.
just jump from one piece of content to the next because it's easier to consume, and you get inspired, and you're like, yes, I'm going to do things, and then nothing happens. At least that was me, and I see it around me all the time. Now, the self-discovery piece came next. What's self-discovery? Self-discovery is essentially realizing that you hold all the answers within you. And if you do, that means you can go inwards to find those answers. It doesn't mean you stop consuming content or you stop interacting with mentors and coaches, because it's good to get new perspectives. It's good to get new ideas. It's good to check your blind spots. But if you don't give yourself time to sit, reflect, go inwards, feel your feelings, feel your emotions, then you're not going to progress very fast. So those two pieces are very tied together. Now, spirituality, this means different things for different people. I
Mm.
grew up, let's say, religious, but I didn't really practice. For most of my, all of my 20s actually, are my early 30s, I was mostly agnostic. I had some spiritual experiences where I'm like, I don't know how to explain that. I have a math background, I have an engineering background, a computer science background. I don't know how to explain that. Kind of ignored that. But it wasn't until 2022 when I had my spiritual awakening, let's call it.
Ooh,
We were coming out of the pandemic, right?
right.
But because I worked for Microsoft and I worked in a role that was all about enabling people to work from home and to work remotely, I worked 12-hour days for like 2 years to enable. And that was very rewarding because now there were people that were stressed about their lives, about their jobs, and not being able to go to the office, but they got to work from home because of the technology. I was able to help them enable. It was very rewarding, but I got burned out, right? There was a lot of depression coming out of that. And I went to this retreat in Ecuador
Mm,
in early 2022, and that essentially transformed my life. And again, I'm not spiritual. I'm someone that's never been drunk. I drink occasionally, but I don't have a reason to drink too much. Never done drugs. Yet I'm here in the Amazonian jungle, 10,000 feet up, in a beautiful mountain, in a retreat that's just fabulous, with people I don't know, but later on will become some of my best friends. And I'm about to do a sacred plant medicine journey that's from the Amazonian jungles. Ayahuasca, if you are familiar with it, or if your audience is, and seeing
of
that.
course, I'm familiar with ayahuasca.
Yes, so that was
So
I
you
was
tried it. Oh my god! I think this conversation will now steer towards ayahuasca. But okay, well,
yeah, we can. I'm happy to go in any direction. But you asked about the spirituality. That's why spirituality came in. Because you see, the way I see spirituality, it's not necessarily that we have to be in a specific religion. It's more like, what do you feel in your heart and what do you believe about the world around you? Like how connected to people are, how
mm,
connected you are to nature because you are part of nature, how connected you are to everything and anything around you. And that's what was shown to me on my journeys. And it showed pretty much I got to understand myself at a level that I never understood myself before. And that's really what kickstarted the next part of my journey, which if that was parabolic up to the point, it then became logarithmic. So it got really accelerated with
mm,
and I should add this really quick before I pass it back to you. First of all, plant medicine is not for everyone. I did
yes,
thousands of hours of research, right? And I still wasn't prepared for the aftermath, which is the integration piece. Now, thankfully, there's more research on that and there's more information on how to properly integrate. But for me, the journey was amazing. It was 12 days. I did 5 different plant medicine journeys. Coming back, I was amazing for 1 month, but then my depression kicked back in, but a lot harder than before because now I was kind of in
it's
between worlds.
realigning. It's like it's being thrown back to your face. Like, okay, this is what you need to deal with. This is what
Exactly.
you have been suppressing.
Exactly.
Oh,
I went,
basically,
to add this, I went into a deep, deep depression for most of 2022. I pulled myself out of it. I'm here in front of you right now. I have, no signs of death, and we can talk about that. But I wanted to make sure that we covered that piece because I thought initially, wow, this plant medicine is for everyone. It's not.
mm, ha. Although I'm so compelled to ask, like, what
Uh,
made you? What? Okay, can you share with us why do you say so?
why it's not for everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
I kind of
So,
have an inkling of what you're going to say, but let's hear it from the person who actually tried ayahuasca himself.
I mean, let's look at it from anything else in life, right? Nothing is for everyone, meaning that we are all unique, beautiful souls. We, like you mentioned, we have our own traumas, we have our own challenges in life, we have our own paths. And if plant medicine worked for me, it may not necessarily work for you. You may not be suited for it given the trauma you have, the type of medication you're on, the type of journeys you want to be on. Because you see, a plant medicine journey like that requires you to be pretty strict with your diet, with your intentions, with what you go into it with. And some people, from what I've seen, so I was on the journey with about 30 people over 12 weeks. Some got amazing, amazing transformations. I was somewhere in the middle where most of the people were, and then some people didn't get much out of it. And those people that didn't get much out of it were people that were very closed off, people that were very set in their expectations as to what they want to get back, as opposed to just allowing the medicine to work, allowing the universe to bring things in. And also, there were people that had other, let's say, journeys to do before they could do the plant medicine, right? So that's why I say, I mean, that's the reason. And of course, there's the medical side of it that I mentioned, right? Because there are certain contraindications, like if you're on special medications, you either have to come off of them or not do it at all.
Because I have also read some articles about it. It's like, who, it's not like the normal LSD or whatever drugs that you have outside. It is something else. And I had a guest too that she also did it, and like you said, it wasn't for everybody, because it's like there should be, you should be called to do it. There is a reason for you to actually, yeah, there's a calling for you to do it, and it's not like, oh, okay, I feel like I want to do ayahuasca. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Well, the calling, that was for me because, I mean, I mentioned I hadn't done drugs or anything like that before. I hadn't been even drunk, right? So for me, I've been sober all my life. So to give up control to this
Yes,
medicine,
the control part. Yes, control.
that was scary. But what I pride myself in, I mean, there's many things, but one of them is the fact that I always try to have an open mind. So I go into anything like, I have an open mind, I'll try this and see how it is. And have my own discernment. Is this for me or is it not? Anyway, so I had a calling for ayahuasca because otherwise, why would I go do it? And I had a calling for actually since 2021, to be honest. But then the borders were still closed. There was no way for me to travel, so that kind of got put on the back burner, so to speak. And then by 2022, it got really big. In fact, I actually booked my journey and my trips in like 2021, right? So like 6 months before, I knew I wanted to do this. Everything was booked, and I went in April of 2022, and transformational. That's all I can say.
Wow. Wow. So how I am, because you seem like a man with principle. I can see that you're spiritual too, and I can see that you're aligned. I feel it. So I want to know, how are you integrating all these aspects of your life? Like, what does your day to day look like? And what are your core values that you keep close to your heart?
Because if you look at 18 right now, I'm very open minded. So I read a lot. I have probably 4 or 5 coaches right now that I work with at any given time, mentors for different parts of my life. And I'm growing in every aspect. I'm taking things that work for me and tossing out the rest. And today, for example, right, I wake up in the morning, I have a meditation practice, I take my dogs out for a walk. That's my morning routine. Now, meditation practice includes gratitude and celebration, which are huge for me. I've realized that gratitude is one of the most important things that one can do in their daily routine. Even if it's 2 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, you should look at doing a gratitude practice. What does that mean? That means being grateful, but rather looking at what you have versus what you don't have and being grateful for it. Do you have food in the fridge? You can be grateful for that. Are your legs working to take you on a walk or take you to work? You can be grateful for that. There are so many things in our life that we take for granted that we don't realize. And actually, Ecuador and that trip is what made me realize that. And it wasn't even the plant medicine, it was the shamans, it was the way that people lived. And the ceremonies themselves, water is very sacred, which means you don't get much water during the ceremony, you only get water at the end. And when you get a glass of water after 8, 12 hours of ceremony, it's like the most sacred thing you ever had. And they were talking about how essentially water is something we take for granted, that we have clean water to drink every day.
Yeah.
Or that idea came to me, and then I looked more into it. In fact, on my own podcast, I have an episode, well, multiple, but one specific to gratitude, and I looked at the science of it because, again, my mind is more analytical. I can see both sides now, but I know some people want to see the science, and there's like some amazing science behind what the practice of gratitude does to your brain and to your life. Because when you start focusing on what you have versus what you don't have, you're going to bring more of it into your life, and you're going to bring more positivity, which is very important because we have what's called a negativity bias. And a negativity bias is evolutionary, meaning that we needed that 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago to stay safe. Because if there was a predator in the wild, if there was another tribe looking to conquer us, if there was something else that was a danger, we had to know about it before anything else. So negativity always makes it to our brain and from all
Survival.
a lot faster than anything positive, which means that you just have to train yourself to bring more positivity into your life. It doesn't mean that you can do anything about it. And there's a lot more,
How,
of course. I can go for another 2 minutes.
I think you just open up another side to the Pandora box. So
Yes.
how can one cultivate those positive thinking?
Oh, I love that question. And this is a question that a topic that I discuss with many people in my life. And when I coach people, that's one of the first things we discuss: how to overcome limiting beliefs, how to challenge negative thought patterns, and how to move to the positivity. Because you see, look at anything that has happened in your life. You can take the worst thing that happened, but maybe start with something that is kind of negative. So let's say, I don't know, I'm going out to walk my dogs and it's raining, right?
Mm.
Normally, what I would do in the past, I would see the rain and I'll be like, no, I'm not going to go walk because it's raining, I'm going to get wet, it's going to be miserable, whatever. But then I looked at my dogs. They don't care if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's sunny. They'll enjoy the walk just as much. They'll still get to sniff every blade of grass. They'll still get to enjoy the air. They live in the moment.
Oh,
So when I realized it, I'm like, okay, so if they enjoy it, then okay, maybe there's a different perspective I can look at this. So when I see the rain coming down, I can be grateful that we have rain, which what does it do? It replenishes our water sources, it fuels everything that we eat essentially, right? It
yeah.
fuels us, right? So you can be grateful, you can look at it and say, wow, it's positive. Okay, sure, if it rained for 3 months in a row, you might start to get pissed off. But there are still positives in every situation that you encounter. The question is, what's your perspective? Look at anything in your life. You can always see the positive or you can see the negative.
Wow. You just, I mean, I've always had that in the back of my head, like, but I cannot help sometimes but to succumb to this type of feeling as well. Like, okay, I decide to run today, but then it's drizzling. Oh, I don't want to go out. But then when you said it doesn't, it's not like it's pouring that hard. I have a cap. I can still run, and I should be devoted because I have my goals that I want to achieve at least 15 minutes of running every day, regardless.
Yeah. You touched on two things there, right? That I want to emphasize on. One is, let's call it perhaps a limiting belief in the sense that when you see a small challenge in front of you, and again,
Yeah.
this is for me the case, and most of the people I meet, then because of certain learned behaviors, you stop yourself and say, no, this is going to be too hard. I'm going to not do it. That's subconsciously happening. And then, of course, your conscious mind is like, okay, we're going to stop. But there's the second part, which you can reframe your mind. And this is what I teach people. And perhaps we'll go into this for a second. If you have a thought that comes up and you're aware of it, because awareness is half the battle. So first you have to become aware of your thought or belief. So in your case, the thought is, it's drizzling. I don't feel like going out anymore. Well, you know that you don't agree with it because you mentioned you have your goals. So it gives you a chance to interrupt the thought. And this is something that I talk a lot about nowadays, which is how do we interrupt those negative thoughts, replace them with positive ones. So then we can bring this cycle of more positivity into our life. Because you see, a negative thought, when it gets formed, it grows into a much larger negative thought or a belief, really, and then it's much harder to deal with. It still can be changed, but it takes a lot more work. So how do I interrupt my thoughts? Now, before I go there, I'll ask you a question. Nicolette, has it ever happened to you when, let's say, you're doing something on the computer or reading a book or something, and you remember, hey, you know what, I need to go to the kitchen to do A, B, and C. And you're like, I need to go there. So you stand up, you go to the kitchen, and when you get there, you're like, why did I come there? What did I come here for? Does it happen to you?
Yeah.
It happens to every human being. And guess what? That's a physiological aspect of humans that's in there for our benefit. Now, what happens in the moment? You get up, you
Mm-hmm.
interrupt whatever you're thinking because
Yeah.
you need something physical. Your thoughts stop for a second or half a second, a millisecond. And what happened is a vacuum got created called a scotoma in psychology, and that vacuum had to be filled in by something else. So another
Right.
thought came in, so you forgot about why you went to where you went to begin with. Now, if that's done automatic, because you didn't realize that you were doing that, right? It was done automatic. That means we can also harness its power for our own growth. So what that means is that if you have a negative thought come up, you can pull yourself out of it by doing something physical, like literally physically getting up from your chair and walking away. So that's the first step, because now you've interrupted the pattern, the thought. And the next thing I do, this is very important, I literally take a deep breath in, put a big smile on my face like you see me have right now. And for those listening, like you can probably feel my smile, like put a big smile on my face. And important, I celebrate. So I pump my chest. You can do it any way you want and say, yes, Constantin, we caught, but what are you celebrating? That you caught the negative thought, nothing else. You're celebrating the fact that, you know what, I became aware. And what does that do when you put a smile on your face? Couple of things. One, if you have a smile on your face, you cannot be sad at the same time. Sure, you can be sad later on, but right now you're going to be feeling better in the moment. And that releases good feel hormones from your brain, like dopamine, for example, serotonin. All those hormones get released, and your brain is going to go like, I feel good. What happened? I want to do more of it. And literally your brain will trace back and say, oh, okay, so we interrupted the pattern. We celebrated, we felt good. So now you're building a cycle. And now you have that vacuum to replace it with the thought you want. So the thought would be, in your case, is like the thought that you're replacing is, it's raining, I don't feel like going out. Interrupt, celebrate. And the thought you want to put in is, I get to run every day. Isn't that something? I get to do this. Or nothing stands in my way. No rain, no snow, no cloudiness, no traffic, nothing. Whatever mantra you want to put in that you believe in, right? It's not some make-believe statement. It's something that's true. And what you're doing there is replacing a negative thought with a positive thought with a small process. And then guess what you're going to do? The more you do that, the more you rewire your brain to think in the positive. And what's going to happen? This is the beautiful part where I am right now, which I didn't believe was possible.
I am writing it down.
I did an entire podcast video on that, and it's going on live tomorrow, actually. So I'll send you the link if you want.
Okay, perfect.
Well, you should. And actually, I love that you said you're going to write it down. And this is a tip I want to give to everyone out there. It's one I made a mistake with in the past. When you're listening to a conversation like this, right, you might absorb about 5%. This is by science. This is proven by science. 5-10% of what people discuss.
Yes.
If you start writing down things, and I'm talking not on the computer, but take a piece of paper and a pen and start writing down, that goes up to like 60%.
That's right.
Or take. And if conversations happen to be engaging, where you can, the speakers engage with you, you can go up to like 90%. But at least the writing is important, because my mentor says what you write, you invite. So you write the things you want to invite into your life, that you want to bring into your life. Right?
Wow. I have so many things that I want to apply already after this, after our call. Because I have been, to be honest, I've been struggling with one project at work. And I was like, every time I think about it, it's like, it's not that difficult, but it's just, I think the pattern that I've already it's sort of ingrained that if I were to do this, the outcome would be the same, meaning I don't get buy-in from my management. So the more you try, you feel like, what's the point? It's going to get turned down anyway. But I believe in it. But it's like, it's the challenge. It's like a big rock in front of me. Like, how do...
Another conversation that we can jump
in. Yeah, I know.
That's really what I help people with, because one of the things I realized, I work for Microsoft, I do the podcast, but recently I've started taking on people for coaching, because people have been like, wow, you've been through a transformational journey. I want to learn from you. And that's kind of this idea came up for me. It's like, okay, well, maybe I can take what I've done and help other people rewire their brains, overcome anxiety, depression, burnout, procrastination, hesitation, all those things that challenge us. And that's really what I'm focusing right now, because I've taken on some people as pilot clients and I'm seeing amazing results. And it's because of simple procedures like this that are often overlooked. And to your point, like if you look at your project, right, and you're looking at the outcome already, and you have, I would say,
Mm,
fixed mindset, meaning that you already expect it to go a certain way, then how
mm,
can it go any other way? Because subconsciously, what's going to happen? You're thinking that this your manager is not going to approve it. So subconsciously, you're going to feed information that supports that, which means you're not going to be as invested in doing it. You're going to procrastinate, like you mentioned. You're going to essentially not put in all the work you would otherwise. However, if you went in with the belief that perhaps you're open to any outcomes, whatever happens, happens, but you do your best, then your subconscious mind will feed different information to your brain. You will do your best because the outcome is outside of your hands. Like you can't control what your manager does, but you can control what you do. And if you believe in something, then you can go all out. And if they don't see the value in it, have you not gotten something positive out of it? I can guarantee you've learned something. I can guarantee you challenged yourself, so you grew. And there's so many other positives you can probably take out of the specific project you're in.
wow, that this became a mini coaching session. I love it. So, Constantine, walk me through maybe 5 minutes of how you started your coaching program. Like, did you come up with, okay, so you found out that you're good at this, people are actually coming up to you. Did you actually prepare like a course, like a structure for them to
Yes.
go through? And then,
Yes.
yeah.
No, I love the question. So let's actually backtrack. All my life, I've been someone that once I learn something, I cannot wait to share with others and help them get ahead and get further faster. So I remember I don't know, 6, 7 years old. I mean, I played soccer all my life, but I was coaching and helping people and organizing people to play soccer from early ages. Then I was a math tutor throughout my high school and university years and sciences. Then
Wow.
I was I was a big computer game nerd. So I was a coach for them when I became really good. Then in between two jobs, I was playing poker professionally. I was a poker coach for like 10 years and I
No
coached
way.
people. Yeah, right. So I've had this, and then of course in my professional life, both at Microsoft and before, I've been mentoring people like early in their career, joining Microsoft, or even people that were, let's say, more senior than me. I would be passionate about the topic and I would mentor and coach. And that's I mean, I knew I had all these skills because all my life has been built up to this. It wasn't until some people in my life challenged me and say, hey, you are progressing really fast. You are changing really fast. You are learning a lot of things. Why not help others do the same thing? And that's when the
Mm,
light went off. I'm like, oh yeah, I should. So what I did is I started with some people that I mentored in my professional life and then in my personal life, right? And I started to run them through a course that I built up, or rather, I should say, a program, which is 10 to 14 weeks, depending on the person. And I call it right now the purpose to action, meaning that the goal of the program is to begin the rebooting and rewiring process of your brain, like we talked, but also the big part is to help you uncover your purpose, your why, your mission in life, and start doing an inventory of where you are with it and implement more of it into your life. Because for those watching, you can see a sign up there that says follow your heart. The only reason I'm sitting in front of you here right now, Nicolette, is because I'm following my heart. And when I look back at my journey, the biggest catalyst for me was finding my why, was finding my purpose, was essentially realizing what it is in my heart that I want to do and do more of it.
wow. Wow. I am impressed. Constantine, like
Right.
you are one of my role models now. Like this is where I intend to be, but making it being as authentic as I am, but taking what's good from people like yourself and integrating into what I bring to the table.
Exactly. I love that, Nicola. And that's how it should be for everyone. Take what works for you, take what resonates with you, toss out the rest. You don't have to agree 100% with someone, but it doesn't mean you can't take some lesson from them. Because everyone has had their unique journeys, everyone has something to teach us. Even those people we despise, they have
Yes,
something to teach us
yes.
about ourselves and about the world. And authenticity is something I was not good at because I had all these personas and I always had a fear of rejection, which is really a fear of fitting in, of not fitting
Mm.
in, rather, fear of acceptance. And that meant I had different personalities. I would show up differently to try to please people so I can fit into a group. And when I became vulnerable or became authentic, that's when I can connect with people on a much deeper level, like you and I are doing right now. And I'm doing with pretty much most people in my life.
I can say we are on the right path right now. Okay. Wow. Okay. I think we spoke about that. Okay. So we also touched about this, but I think it's good to have a segment on this personally to for the listeners. So, in your opinion, what role does mentorship play in personal and professional development, and how can one find the right mentors to support
Yeah,
their journey?
I love the question, Nicolette. I'll be honest. Earlier in my life, at certain parts, my ego was getting the best of me. And because I've been successful in my career, successful in my life, really, quote unquote, have the American dream, I thought, why do I need mentors? Why do I need coaches? I mean, I always
Oh
had them,
yeah,
but
that's
why
true.
go out of my way to go have someone? And of
They
course,
don't know me. What do they know, right?
no, I know better, right? Like it comes even from a place of like, oh, I know better. I don't think anyone
Oh
can
yes,
help.
yes, yes, yeah. I know better. Like, yeah, who do you think you are trying to teach me how to live my life and to achieve my goals?
And in the last 3 years, that changed significantly. And I have both mentors and coaches that are friends of mine, and I just look up and I always look to learn. There's no exchange of money, just exchange of space and energy and love. And there are others that I sought out and I paid for. And I paid a lot of money in the last few years for my own growth. Some went better than others, but I've always learned something from every single one of them. And so there's a couple of ways you can do it. Most of us have a job, which means that in the job, we likely have peers that we can look up to and say, that person is doing something interesting, or they're farther ahead than me, or in a spot where I would want to be. Why not look at them as a potential mentor and reach out to them and say, hey, I would love to learn from you about A, B, and C. I can guarantee you that when you go up to someone and say, I would like to learn from you, it's very rare that you're going to be told, I don't have time or I don't want to help you. Because you're coming from a place of humbleness. And even if a person is egotistic, you're hitting that ego because you're like, wow, you want to learn from me? I don't remember a scenario in which I reached out to people at Microsoft or outside of it and I said, I would love to learn from you, that I was turned down. Now, of course, if you reach out to some celebrity or someone that's,
I
packed
don't have
or
the time.
right, I mean, that might be a bit tricky. They might put you in a different direction. But look at your life, right? It could be friends, even it could be acquaintances, someone in your life. Now, ideally, I have mentors. Even my parents, you could say, are my mentors, right? But when someone is very close to you, you have to be careful because they could be objective or subjective, right?
Bias. Mm.
Exactly. Most of them will be biased a bit because they know you. So it's good to have those in your life, but also look at people that don't know you as well, so they can check your blind spots. They don't have any preconceived ideas about you, any biases, like you mentioned, Nicolette, any of the stuff. And then there's the paid route as well, right? Where you see people that do this for a living. They have a track record of helping people achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. And then you go to those people because then you're likely going to get a more refined process, something that's been tested, something that's working. And I do want to preface that you have to be very careful when it comes to that, if you want to pay for someone, because unfortunately there are a lot of people taking advantage of this boom in coaches and mentorship and people wanting and seeking this, and they are not giving you what you're looking for. So I'll preface with what I have found to be true is when you're looking for a mentor and a coach, focus on the outcome, meaning what do you want to get out of the exchange if you're exchanging money, right? If I'm exchanging money with you, Nicolette, and I want to be coached by you or mentored, what's the outcome we're going after? And can that coach get you to the outcome? It shouldn't be like, well, you know what, you pay me $1,000 a month or $100 a session or whatever the case might be, and we're going to just take it one session at a time. That's usually a sign that the person doesn't necessarily have outcomes that they can help you achieve or a clear path. At least that's been my finding. So the coaches I've taken, there was always a clear outcome and a somewhat clear process, because you want to leave flexibility in there, right? You want to allow for what comes up. So for example, if you came to work with me, that 10 to 14 week program, that's why it's not fixed in time, because for some people it might take 8 weeks, 10 weeks. For some people it might take 16 weeks, because as we have every session, there are things that we uncover. And my saying is that we always go after the biggest challenge, or let's call it the biggest fire in your life. Because if we don't clear the foundation, if we don't build a stronger foundation, then nothing else you put on top matters. I can take Michael Jordan's mindset and apply it to my life, and it will still crumble apart because my foundation is weak. Think of a house, right? If you build a house, you take down a house and you build a new one on top of the old foundation, it's probably not going to last very long. Same thing with our lives. All of us have a foundation. I'm not saying it has to be all thrown out, but there are certain parts that have to be changed. We talked about the psychology piece, right? The thoughts. That's a good start. So for some people, for example, after 3 or 4 weeks, we can jump into the finding the purpose piece. Other people, it may take 6 weeks before we can jump into that component, or it may take 2 weeks because they have their foundation in a better place. So that's what my recommendation is. If it doesn't matter who you look for what outcome you want out of it. And this is not an expectation. It's an intention. So the outcome is I want to understand myself better at the end of this. I want to understand my life purpose at the end of this. Well, make sure that the coach you're going for or the mentor you go for can help you get there.
Wow. Oh, you gave me a lot to think about today. Like, to be honest, I have to be very transparent. You probably used the first person that managed to convince me that I need to start looking for a proper coach or a mentor. Like, I've spoken to so many coaches online through my podcast, and because of the ego, I'm good enough. I am the first in my peer. To be honest, podcast is not big in Malaysia, and I'm the one I hope to be. So it's like, again, if there's coach, okay, what for? What do I need coaching for? And you
Yeah,
just proved me wrong. You just proved me wrong. Thank you.
I feel exactly where you're coming from, because that's me. That's me even 5 years ago. I'd be like, yeah, I'm too good for that. And in the meantime, I would, spend money on investments, speculating on things, buying shiny toys, and
Right.
they would give me happiness in the moment, but they would help nothing in the long term.
It's void after that.
And now I took that money and I put it in my own coaching and mentorship and programs I joined, and like the return on investment is exponential. I can't even explain to you. I mean, I'm not saying all of them were great, but they were good enough where I could at least learn something. And here's the funny thing. You can always look at it this way. Even if you learn nothing, you learn what not to do. And even
Yeah.
that's valuable enough, right? Now, of course, obviously, you ideally don't want to spend a bunch of money and realize, yeah, I shouldn't be doing that. However, you can always look at the positive side.
I've always believed in trial and error. I like
Yeah.
to do things, get hit, even though it's wrong. Do things, get hit, and then, oh, this way doesn't work. Let me go the other way.
And I'll add
Ah.
one more thing, which is kind of goes back to our egos, right? And this is what I struggled.
Yes.
I signed up with the most expensive coach and program that I've ever signed up in my life 2 days ago. Why?
Oh,
Because I'm launching officially my coaching and mentorship programs. I want to speak on stages. I'm going to have group coachings, all these beautiful things, right? And I know that I can do it myself. I know I can, because I believe in myself. Nowadays, I know that I can do anything I want. But don't I want to do it a bit faster? Don't I want to have someone in my corner that has done it?
has already done it?
Yes,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, trial and error. I'm the same way. Well, how about we eliminate some of the errors and be like, maybe, that's not necessarily for you. And you're still going to have trials and errors. But the idea is to, and I love this sentence, is to go further, faster. It's not to just jump from A to B, so from the start to the finish line. It's just to, instead of taking 2 years to get to where you want to go, it might take you 6 months. And what is that worth to us in a life where time is the only resource we cannot get more of? Money can always get more of.
Yes. Thank you, Constantin. You sprouted another idea. Thank you very much. Okay, One, two, three, four, five more questions, and then we can wrap this up. So I'm gonna pivot to a self-worth
Okay.
question because that's the essence of my podcast. And I think this we answered this already. So, whew, how do childhood experiences and upbringing impact an individual's sense of self-worth and their ability to engage in self-discovery later in life?
Oh, that's a deep question and one that hits very close to home. So you see, I grew up and lived most of my adult life thinking I had a good childhood, thinking I had a trauma-free childhood, and for the most part I did. However, I didn't realize that for the first 7 years of my life, when I was raised by my grandparents, my caretakers, my grandmother, while a sweet, sweet lady, lots of love in her heart, she had her own trauma and she had a lot of, unfortunately, let's call them negative patterns that got imprinted on me, being put down, not allowed to do things I wanted to do, meaning activities like drawing and painting and things that I wanted to do, but I was a boy, not being allowed to be a child, right? And of course, as you grow up, and it doesn't have to be just your caretakers, it could be your teachers, it could be anyone in your life. There's an event that happens and that gets imprinted into you, and that essentially becomes a mini trauma or a large trauma, and that gets to come up all the time in your life. So you may realize that you have certain situations where someone triggers you, and then you react and you don't know where that came from because it's not you. Well, that's one, I would call it a wounded inner child that's within your emotional field. And until you do the self-discovery and go in and clear that, and the way I've done it myself is I've met this amazing hypnotherapist on my show, and then I've been working with her for 8 months, and I cannot tell you how much we've been able to uncover over the
Is this
sessions.
from London?
No, no. So her name is Amy. She's on my podcast early on. I had an episode with her, and I didn't know what hypnotherapists were for the longest time. I didn't care much about them, and then I got curious, and I said I'll try a session, and I'll tell you, it was almost as powerful as plant medicine, because I got visuals, the emotions released. I mean, I cried a lot in every session. I have no shame in admitting that. I mean, there's a lot of feeling your emotions, and I would heal parts of me, and it's almost like a weight was lifted. I mean, I remember an example, and this will blow your mind. I had my first session of hypnotherapy. Now, when you go into plant medicine, when you go into any type of therapy, you should set intentions. So, like, what do you want out of this? Not expectation, what I expect to get out of it, but what I want to set my intentions on. And in that particular journey at the beginning was about my learned behaviors, my reactivity, because you see, I had certain behaviors where if my partner did something or someone in my life did something, it would trigger me and I would react without even thinking, because that's what reactions are. And then I would realize later, I should have not done that. But it's too late, right? You've done the damage, you've done the reaction. And it took, over 2 years, I let's say I improved about 20% in that area. I was going very slow. I did a hypnotherapy session, and the next day, I'm walking up the stairs to the kitchen where I see my partner doing something in the kitchen. And I stop before I even finish going up the stairs because I'm like, what she's doing right now is supposed to trigger me. Because I remember when she was doing this in the past, I would be triggered, I would yell, I would say something mean because she's doing something that doesn't agree with me. But yet I'm sitting here or standing here and no such reactions are coming up. No such feelings of hurt are coming up. And that was the first light bulb moment. This was a day after the first session of hypnotherapy. I'm like, huh. And over the following weeks, 95% of that behavior was removed. When it took me 2 years on my own to get maybe 20% improvement. So that's self-discovery, right? Because you're going
It's
in.
RTT. I can imagine it's RTT to be okay, Constantine. I think this is just a parallel because I'm actually studying to become a qualified hypnotherapist, and I'm gonna admit to you, I have been putting it off. And now, after speaking, it's like a sign from the universe. Please, Nicolette, for the love of God, I need to graduate. I took it 2022 February, and I'm supposed to graduate February 2023, and here I am.
Speak in your heart. It's something that you want to do absolutely because the power in it, amazing. And if you want even more encouragement, talk to different hypnotherapists on your show. I brought 4 different ones on my show. And 2 of them actually specialize in what's called a past life regression, which is a whole different story, but that's more spiritual, where you get to literally see your past lives and see the in-between and what happens. Anyway, so I would definitely say, if that speaks to you, absolutely. I mean, I'm not a healer. I know that I would love to do it, but that's not my path. If that's your path, absolutely. And that's what I mean. Follow your heart, whatever is in your heart, find your why, because if that's not very clear, then we start putting things off because we don't know what's in our heart yet.
Wow, thank you. What is your heart's greatest wish?
My heart's greatest wish. Oh, there's so many. There's another sign right there that says love. Love. That's my wish, in the sense of that I want for myself and others to always choose to come from a place of love and not fear.
Fear. Beautiful. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
My mission in life. And my mission in life, I didn't mention it. I did mention that I figured it out. But
a mantra. Do you have a mantra?
But I would say that's my mantra, right? Because I repeat that.
Okay. Yeah. If you put it that way.
Yeah. I wake up every day looking forward to inspiring, empowering, guiding, and supporting individuals on this life journey so they too can find joy, fulfillment, abundance, and success in life. And then their world becomes a better place, and then our world becomes a better place as well. Why is it a mantra? Because it's driving everything I do in life. Every meeting I have at work, every meeting I have with people like yourself on a podcast, with my clients, with my mentees, with my friends, with my family. If I don't do one of those 4 things, inspire, empower, guide, or support, then I'm not really following what's in my heart. And it's something that I need to remind myself, because like everyone else, we tend to forget things.
Sorry, what was it? Inspire?
Well, mine is inspire and empower. So I'm empowering you to do whatever it is that you want to do, right? And then give you the tools and whatnot, guide and support. Now, mind you, when you say empower, I mean, that kind of includes guiding and supporting, but I do like to put them in because sometimes I can't necessarily empower someone, but I can guide them to the solution or a different path, right? Or I can support them on their own path.
Oh, okay. 1 or 2 more questions. Do you have anything that keeps you up at night?
No,
or
not
do you
anymore.
Sleep well?
I sleep. I mean, I have a meditation practice at night too. We haven't talked about that.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's science behind this. So there is science coming up now showing that if you go to bed with negative thoughts, so you're thinking about what you haven't accomplished, what you have to do tomorrow, what's in the news, you scroll your phone and you all see negativity, that's going to prevent you from being able to fall asleep. And if you fall asleep, it's not going to be very restful, right? I mean, we're not even talking about nightmares. We're talking about the fact that you're not going to get the full rest of sleep and you're going to wake up throughout the night. So that means if that's true, the opposite is true as well. And there's research for that as well, which is if you put yourself in a state of mind, of gratitude, celebration, meditation, where you slow down your brain, where you are just in a positivity state, how could you not have a good sleep?
I can't. Okay, last question, Constantin. Bo, right? You said Bo. That's it.
That's what I go by at work, but Constantin is what I go by in most of my life nowadays.
Okay. If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
A few come to mind. So I put one that I came up with for my podcast. I'm not sure if it's mine or not, if it's whatever. But it's for the episode that's coming out tomorrow, so I figured that it resonates now with what we talked about. And it goes something like this. Mindset gets the glory, but psychology holds the story. And psychology is your thoughts about yourself, about people around you, and about the world at large. So if you don't take care of your thoughts, your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about the people around you in your life, and about the world, then your mindset won't matter. I can have the best mindset in the world. I can have the best coach giving me the best mindset approach. It won't matter because psychology is the foundation we talked about earlier.
Perfect. What a way to end our conversation. Mindset sets the glory. Let me recap that. Psychology holds.
That's the glory, right? Because usually people say, "Oh,
mindset gets the glory."
Yes. psychology holds the story, meaning that the real story of your life is in your thoughts, your beliefs about yourself, others, and the world at large.
Oh, thank you so much, Constantine. Your podcast is Know Thyself. Was it?
Unleash
Is it
thyself. Unleash thyself.
Unleash Thyself? Okay,
It's not about
I will
unleashing the
be.
best version of yourself. It's like unleashing that potential that we all know we have inside.
I'll be following that. Well,
Thank you.
perfect. I think we're right on time. I also do not want to keep you. This has been such an empowering, eye-opening. I don't know. Yes, you unlocked certain parts where I held myself back. I think few months ago, and I think I needed clarity. I was asking from the universe, please, and thank you,
Such
thank
a
you.
pleasure to sit here with you, Nicola. Thank you for your energy and your presence and your questions. It was such a beautiful time to be here with you today and share energy.
Thank you so much. I just want to ask, do you have an Instagram? Because when this airs, I will be clipping and I'll be tagging you.
Yes. So there is one for my podcast, which is Unleash Thyself Today. And then I have one for myself that I'm launching right now. It's Constantin Morun. But I can send those to you on Podmatch as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
fine.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You have a great rest of the day,
Thank you so
Constantine.
much. I will for sure. You as well.
Speak to you again. Speak to you again.
Yeah, we'll
Please
speak soon.
stay in touch.
Yeah. Take care, Nicolette.
Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye. Have a good one.